Hello, welcome back to Going Walkabout. Going Walkabout is an iOS travel journal, and on this channel I explain all the ins and outs on how I created the application. Today we dive into my trip header. For a few episodes now, I'm migrating my application from UIKit to SwiftUI. I do that step by step, and I all the time figure out things that work and that don't work. Now, one of the things was that my trip view uses a vertical pager, and a vertical pager is currently not supported in SwiftUI, so I had to work around. Now, my trip consists of a header and a list with post. The list with post I already implemented in SwiftUI, and today it's time to work on the header. So first, here in the preview, I have the final layout of the header. You see there's an image on top, there's a map. I changed the layout a little bit with the user also being visible. We can edit the trip if necessary. We can go to the followers, and this is preview data, so there's no real data to be shown, but it works. And I can actually purchase a premium trip here as well. So if we look at that, we have the trip intro. Trip header was already a name of a different class, so I had to rename it a little bit. But we have here on top a trip image, what is a custom component that I created that I use everywhere to retrieve my trip images from the cache initially, and if necessary I download them. I set here an aspect ratio of 1. I'm still experimenting a little bit because on an iPad it needs to scale because otherwise it doesn't look very well. I have a stack here with the trip name on top, what you see here, and that's it. Now, I also have a user bar. That's the bar here where I say with a user avatar. Then I have a VStack with the name of the user, number of posts, and the flags. I show that here. Okay. Then spacer, I can have a button to edit it, or I can have a button to flag it. So if it's a trip that you don't own, you can flag it for inappropriate content, as you see here. And then I have the map. The map is a story by itself. I would like to create it in SwiftUI, but unfortunately maps in SwiftUI don't support the things I need. So currently I still revert back to the old maps, but I'll go into more detail in the next episode on that topic. And then I have my action bar here where I can go to the followers and I can see to follow and unfollow. If you're not following, if you're the owner, you see the trip. Well, there's some logic on what to show in which scenarios. And this works. It's all based on a view model, as I usually do. My trip has a view model, and that works. So this is a nice view that is a standalone, and it works, and I can show it in the preview. And now I had to implement it into my trip view controller, what is still an old view controller. That's what we have here. Now let's go to the top. On top here I create my page view. That's the UI scroll view. And if you remember and you looked at the post list in SwiftUI episode, you notice that I use that. I have my header view, some buttons, the trip, etc. And here I have created a view for my trip intro. That's what you just saw. And I have the view model. It's the same as I did for my post list and my post list view. Here I create the view model the view model, and I create the view. See, I get the view from my UI hosting controller, and I add them here to the page view. Now, this is exactly the same as I did it with my post list. So if you want to have more detail, go and have a look at that episode. But this is the way I deal with it. Nothing special. I need to do some resizing, etc. And then when I fetch my trip, because the view is opened, sometimes it passes in a trip, sometimes it does not, or actually it always passes in a trip, because that's what I explained in my episode on the trip list, pass in a trip and how to do that. But I still need to get some data. So I fetch the trip user. The trip user is whether you're a follower or not. So if you open a trip, I don't know yet whether you're following it or not, so I need to retrieve that piece of data. I need to get the post, of course, to show when that is all done. I need to check if that trip is blocked or that user is blocked, some of that logic. I need to add the buttons on top, because if you're the owner, you can do more than if you're not the owner. And in the future, with my idea of having collaborators, it even gets a little bit more complex to decide who can create posts. I do that logic here. I explained in the previous episode why it's necessary to set my toolbar buttons the way I showed you here on the top bar, on the top item of my navigation bar, and then I go and update my view models, because I have a view model for the header and a view model for the post to do that. And if that page view is hidden, I make it visible. It's initially hidden to make it a little bit smoother to load and to show it. And that's actually all there is to it. Now, update my view models. I need to update 2 view models. And this is also where the actual problem is going to be. I have some animations when you start scrolling that was from the old view that hasn't changed. Sub button. I need to go and add the post. So if I add a post, I open my post editor, and you can see if I have a post, I add the post, I update my view models, and it all works fine, because the posts are still collected by the original UIKit trip controller, trip view controller, and it's passed on to these view models. Now the problem is that when I delete a post in the list, it is deleted from the view model, but the higher level UIKit view controller doesn't get notified because I don't have that in place. And then when you, for instance, after deleting sort it appears again because it's not physically deleted from memory in the trip view controller. So that's still an issue I need to solve. Probably what I'm going to do is instead of having two view models, I'm going to create one view model that is used both by the header and by the post list, because they need the same data. And then I can easier synchronize it, because that view model will then handle everything. And in the future, when it's not necessary anymore to bridge the UIKit for my vertical pager, it also makes sense, trip view, one trip view model to deal with that. But that's for another episode. For now, this is the way it works, and it goes fine. Now, my sort button, the same thing. I need to only sort the bottom part, so the post list, nothing else I need to do. And well, I can navigate, and no, this is about it. There's some logic when things get deleted. So let's run it. We see the list with trips. This is the SwiftUI trip list. We go into the list, we see buttons, what I explained in the previous episode. Go and have a look at that one. And we see here the demo user with the trips. We see the map, and we can go to the followers. No, in this case, there's one follower. And I can go and scroll to the rest of the trip, as you can see the way it is. And this is all working now as I would like to have it. I can go back, go to another trip. And again, I see it, I see the map, etc. Now, the map, if I click on it, it's still the old map that was implemented as a popover. And I did that because otherwise I had problems with my header bar, because I wanted to have a full screen map and no header bar, etc. And a long time ago, I implemented it this way. And this is still the map I use today, because the SwiftUI map isn't going the way I want it, but I'll explain that in a separate episode to do that. Now, as you can see, I'm now almost done converting everything to SwiftUI, because let's go and have a look into my storyboard here, my main storyboard. What was once upon a time a huge storyboard with a lot of screens has now gone down to actually 2 views, and that is my map view, as you just saw. If I click on here, is this map view with this icon and the logic to create waypoints, etc. So I'm very happy that I don't have any user interface views anymore in the storyboard except for the map. And I did an attempt, and I'll explain that, to move that over. But for the rest, there's only some core components, as I use a UI scroll view for paging. And of course, I need to bridge here and there for the correct background, etc. to SwiftUI. But most of it now is SwiftUI. And that is a nice clean slate to start thinking about going Walkabout version 2.0 and to start working on an improved experience for creating posts and to enable collaborators on the trip. I hope you like it. If you like it, please like and subscribe. If you didn't like it, subscribe anyway, because the next episode might be better for you. Don't forget, it's a real application. It's available in the App Store, and you might be able to learn something from it. I thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.